Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. There's my trusty Pentel mechanical pencil with zero point 0.7 HB millimeter lead, my kneaded eraser, and here's my favorite paper to draw on, Strathmore Bristolboard 300 series with vellum surface. I love the vellum surface. Today, I am going to draw Magneto. I realized that looking at my library of videos, I tend to draw a lot of X-Men related characters, and this week is no different. I guess when I was a kid, I just simply read a lot of X-Men books, which makes sense because I think the 80s was like the prime X-Men period, for a lot of people, especially, my age group. So I started collecting comics or reading X-Men from like 1983 to like 1990. So when I start reading X-Men, Paul Smith was drawing it. The very first X-Men book I picked up was X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 166, which was a giant size X-Men issue. And the X-Men were fighting the Brood, which was a great story. I actually just missed the John Byrne classic legendary run. But I later went back and read it. My friend's brother had all the run, so I managed to read the John Burns run. But for me, I actually grew up reading Paul Smith's X Men, and then which kind of transitioned into John Romita Jr. X Men. So I started collecting. I read a lot of the X Men from 166 to early 200s. For about a good, I say good like 6 years period. So I really love the X Men. X Men's always been one of my favorite book. For whatever reason, I never really got into Magneto. I don't know why. So when you're drawing Magneto, Magneto is a very powerful figure. He has a very commanding presence, and and so once you have that in mind, it's like you should, when you're drawing Magneto, you should have him standing upright in a very commanding, authoritative pose with his arms with his arms up. Kind of he's commanding the magnetic field around him. So once you kind of have that pose down, that kind of gesture down, it's fairly easy to draw Magneto. Now, some background about Magneto. So Magneto first appearance was the X-Men number one, which came out in September of 1963. And it was created, Stan Lee, I mean, excuse me, Magneto was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. And yeah, he was actually a major villain from the beginning. And his background is kind of he's a very sympathetic character in a lot of ways because his character is a survivor of the Holocaust, and during the Holocaust, that's where his power kind of came to him. So from the trauma of the Holocaust, he developed his magnetic power, and also that trauma kind of shaped his worldview. So he became a very militant figure, but over time he became a very sympathetic figure because you kind of understood where he came from and why he does the things he does and how he sees the world. So yeah, so if you kind of like when I first read Magneto, I mean he was a very kind of a very almost like a dastardly villain, but over time he became a very sympathetic, almost like a gray figure. Now that being said, I don't know if I drew Magneto that much during my run, during my tenure at Marvel. I was at Marvel from 2003 to 2014. So no, 2002 to 2014. So I was at Marvel for 12 years. And during that time, I think I've only drawn drew Magneto a handful of times. And I don't know why. I mean, it's Magneto's one of those like a major character, but for whatever reason, I never really got to really draw him. I think I drew him in a handful of covers and other stuff. So there I am drawing the face, and he has that helmet that kind of his protects him from psychic attacks from Charles Xavier. And and he has this kind of like a funky little design around the rim of the helmet. And then he has this little I don't know, this little design element on the front of his helmet with a little horn with horns. Magneto is a very iconic character, and he has this, this collar around with these giant bolts. You know, I mean, it's interesting. Like, so when I was reading comics in the '80s and '90s, Magneto was, I mean, you could still use the World War II Holocaust background as a major story origin element, but now we're in 2025. I guess you have to kind of like bring the history forward a little bit. I mean, because at this point, if Magneto was born in, I guess at that point he was born like 1920s. So he would be he'll be over 100 years old. So I haven't read the X Men in a long time. So I wonder how they kind of fix that story element or the origin element. Because if we're going by real time, Magneto will be over 100 years old. So when I was reading X Men, Magneto was, I guess it was in his 50s, 50s and 60s. So yeah, comment in the comment section. If you guys know how if they changed Magneto's origin story or not in the comic book. I'm actually kind of fascinated by it because like it's actually kind of funny because I started collecting comics in '83. And from like 1983 to 1990, I read everything Marvel. So I had a pretty deep knowledge of all the comic books that was produced during that time period. But now, as I became a professional, I'm going to be honest, I haven't read too many comics in the last 15 years. Because it's just like, like just, I just, you kind of somewhat grow out of comics. But at the same time, you just get busy with life. And so I just, you just get so busy, like kind of like, working at your career that I don't have that, the leisure time to sit down and read, like 3 dozen comic books every month. So yes, to be honest with you, it's kind of funny. I'm drawing Magneto and of the X Men, and I have no idea what the the storylines of the X Men from the last 15 years. So that's a big kind of interesting secret about comic book professionals because like a lot of my other friends who work in the business who are comic book creators, they we have a hard time keeping up with the current batch of comics. So, and we're kind of like clueless of what's happening in the comic world. So once I have like the rough figure drawn in, I tend to lightly erase it, so that kind of get rid of all the stray marks, and it allows me to kind of like really refine the line and the structure because there's a faint underdrawing beneath it. So I'm basically drawing the helmet there. So the first time around, I kind of made the face a little too long. So this time around, I'm kind of like shortened the face a little bit to give it a more balanced face. It's funny as I'm drawing this face, how different artists have influenced me. I mean, I could see elements of John Buscema in a lot of my drawings. I see elements of Neil Adams, who I absolutely adore, and a little bit of Frazetta in some of my drawings. Yeah, I had to fix the that little horn in the front because when I drew it the first time around, I put it a little too low. It's supposed to be kind of sits a little higher in the middle of the forehead. I mean, Magneto is a really powerful character. And I remember I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan because of John Byrne. So I think the one of the very first comic book I ever bought was Uncanny X-Men 166 and Fantastic Four number 250, written and drawn by John Byrne. It was the X Factor story where the Skrulls were disguised as X-Men, and basically took down the Fantastic Four and Gladiator. The he's the bodyguard of the Empress of the Shire Empire. So Gladiator was this really cool looking dude. He's essentially Superman with a mohawk. And so going back, I actually kind of lost my train of thought there. So I love the Fantastic Four. I remember Magneto's so powerful that in one of the Fantastic Four storyline, written by John Byrne, Doctor Doom, one of God, who was it? Who was that? Who was that little kid? He basically questioned Doctor Doom, saying that he that Magneto might rival him in power, and Doctor Doom just absolutely flips his lid, and just basically scared the crap out of the kid. So you start ranting and raving that no one is powerful than Doom. No one rivals Doom. And so I thought that was a pretty cool scene that basically illustrates how powerful Magneto is. Because for me, I mean, I think the greatest villain that I've ever seen in a comic book is Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is my number one favorite villain of all time because he's a super genius, and he's just a badass. He's just an all around badass. And actually, that reminds me. I'm looking forward to the new Avengers movie with the new Doctor Doom coming. Although I'm not sure about Robert Downey Jr.'s casting as Doctor Doom. I thought the guy who played Mads Mikkelsen, he was Hannibal Lecter in the TV show, and also he was the James Bond villain in Casino Royale. I thought he would make a perfect Doctor Doom. So I'm trying to get that hand gesture. So if you're struggling with drawing hands, just go ahead and use yourself as a model or a reference. I do that all the time. I'm constantly posing myself, uh, to draw a figure. Now, so it's when you if you make a mistake. I mean, if something doesn't look right, it's not right. So if it doesn't look right, it's not right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. If it looks right, then it's right. And if it's wrong, then erase it. I mean, this is one of my favorite stages of drawing, this during the penciling stage, because I can just like do stuff, and if I make a mistake, I just erase it. Don't be too precious with your drawing. If you make a mistake, just erase it. It's not the end of the world. And sometimes if you can't fix it, just walk away from it. Erase it and walk away from it. And then come back with fresh eyes. And you'll it's actually kind of fun. You'll magically see all the mistakes or what went wrong, and then you should be able to fix it fairly easily. So going back, as I was saying earlier, I see some influences in other people, other artists, in my work. As I'm drawing this, that pose actually kind of reminds me a lot of Mike Zeck's drawing. Mike Zeck was a absolutely fantastic artist. He was mainly known for his Captain America and Punisher, and he also did the first Secret Wars. And I think the team between Mike Zeck pencil and John Betty's, uh, is it Betty's or Beatty? John Beatty's inks. I thought was absolutely fantastic. So as I'm drawing this pose, there's some certain elements, especially the legs, kind of remind me of Mike Zeck's leg. Also, the great thing about Magneto is the cape. Always like the cape always just something about the cape on villains just kind of gives it that commanding, intimidating presence. Like Doctor Doom with his cape and Magneto with his cape is actually pretty cool. Drawing that intercostal muscle and drawing the ab. Yeah, so when you're drawing a six pack, don't make it a straight line. Just kind of give it that slight irregular line to it. Drawing his trunks. Yeah, drawing that. It does. The more I'm staring at this, it does look like a Mike Zeck legs. And that there's that design element. There's that they have that Magneto has this kind of a stripe pattern on his boots and on his gloves. It was so much easier and fun to draw the characters back then. I mean, nowadays you're trying to make everything so realistic when you're designing a character. But back then, growing up in the 80s, I mean, the heroes and villains, their costumes were so simple. Many of them were very iconic. I mean, they're so simple to draw. I mean, they're very easy to memorize and just like, and easy to draw. Unlike a lot of the new characters now, where it's just you have to draw all the rivets and the buttons. It's basically that's the influence of the movies, and also the Ultimate kind of like change everything too. Mark Miller and Brian Hitch's the Ultimate, they kind of made everything more real life and realistic. So you have a lot of costume design that is like that have to make sense in the real world. So I mean, which is really cool when they first came out, but now it's kind of a bit of a pain to draw because you have to like draw all the little buttons and the zippers and the creases and the costume and all the connecting points and the pads and all that. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny, how comics have kind of have evolved over time. And there's that banding design on the gloves. So yeah, so Magneto, he's the father of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And I think they changed that history too. Again, so most of the stuff that I read as a kid, I think they've kind of like tweaked it or completely changed it. So I'm not even sure at this point if Magneto is still considered father to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I'm actually kind of curious who's going to play the new Magneto and Charles Xavier, all the new X Men. When now that Marvel Studios taking over the the X Men franchise. Yeah, so I'm at this point. I'm kind of like cleaning up and tightening up the drawing. I like drawing the capes. I've always enjoyed drawing capes. The capes are very fun to draw for me because they it can always it for me it always enhances the overall figure drawing by basically changing the shape, the mass of the cape. You can kind of like really easily help balance the composition and also kind of create the mood of the character and give it more energy and excitement to the drawing. I know you guys can ask me, so where do you learn how to draw capes? Actually, oddly enough, I learned how to draw. When you draw a cape, you're basically creating movement in cloth. So you just can't have the cape just kind of like hang straight down. You want to give more life to it, and so you want to kind of have the cape always kind of like flapping in this invisible wind, even though if they're kind of standing still, kind of having that the bending and the movement of the cape. So I learned how to draw, or I was inspired the way I move or draw the cloth of the cape, the bends and the folds of the cape. I learned how to draw that, or inspired by Maxwell Parrish. So Maxwell Parrish is one of the greatest uh, golden age illustrator of all time, and he was mainly known for his absolutely stunning, beautiful landscape paintings. But he did a lot of kind of like fairy tale kind of type illustrations, and there are a few paintings of his he did. I think especially was it the witch riding the broom. She had this beautiful scarf around her neck, and the way he drew how that scarf was kind of billowing in the wind, that kind of stuck with me. So that kind of like that, that the coil element of the scarf, and also he drew this really beautiful women in these very simple tunics, and the way they kind of like move in the wind. So I was inspired by that, by Maxwell Parrish, of all people, and when drawing the capes. And then there's certain elements of Frazetta that, and Frazetta draws these like really kind of robust, kind of billowy cape design. So I kind of was inspired by Frazetta too when I'm drawing capes. So it's those two guys, Maxwell Parrish and Frank Frazetta. So which kind of like goes to my philosophy. If you want to be a better artist, especially in comics, stop, don't only look at comic book artists. Look beyond comic book artists. Look at Golden Age illustrators. Look at Royal Academy artists of the 19th century. Look at classical masters. Look at sculptures. I actually look at sculptures all the time. I think if I wasn't an artist or a painter, I would have chosen sculpting as an artistic career, because I actually love sculpting, or actually love the look of the sculpture. So even though I never sculpted anything in my life, but if I wasn't drawing or painting, I would have gone to sculpture. So yeah, so if you want to improve as an artist, look at beyond comics. Study the old masters. Study illustrators. I mean, you know like I look at illustrators all the time. I mean, some of my favorite illustrators are Norman Rockwell, Leyendecker, shoot, Dean Cornwell, Mead Schaefer, love Mead Schaefer, Haddon Sundblom, Howard Pyle, N.C. Wyatt, Franklin Booth, even like this great fine artists like John Singer Sargent, Velázquez, Rubens, Michelangelo. Actually, one of my favorite painters of all time is Anthony Van Dyke. I actually just absolutely love that guy. Just his paintings are just unbelievable. And then and also look at I look at like designers, illustrator designers like Alphonse Muscha, Gustav Klimt, all those guys. So like look at all different artists, even landscape painters. I actually love landscape painters, like Thomas Moran, Albert Bierstadt, all those guys. So yeah, so don't narrow yourself as an artist by just only looking at comic book artists. Look beyond it. Think outside the box. Look at other artists. Look at other feel. I actually look at a lot of movies. I mean, I'm a big movie junkie. So if I'm not inspired, I often look at some of my favorite movies to get inspired. I mean, they tend to be a lot of monster movies. I look at a lot of the Ray Harryhausen movies from my childhood, to get inspired. I look at those cheesy Godzilla movies from the 60s and 70s, because again, they're all from my childhood. So it's I always seem to like tap into my all the stuff that inspired me when I was a kid. That always like got me in this artistic mood. So I look at all those things. I'm just I surround myself with art books and magazines. You should look at my studio. It's um, it's a pretty impressive library, and I just like to surround myself with books and art. And then so if I feel uninspired, I would look at some of my favorite artists from the past, and get inspired. Yeah, I'm still working on the cape. So if you're struggling with the cape and the cloth and all that stuff, I would sometimes use drape towels on chairs to basically get a better understanding of the folds of the drapery, and stuff like that. Kind of smearing the graphite, make the shadows a little softer, and give it a little bit more texture to the cape. So by having this kind of a dark shadow, dark cape in the background, it just makes the figure pop more. I don't know what's going on in my studio. So I live in Maryland, and so right now it's been very windy and cold outside, and I get this weird noises in the house sometimes, and I sometimes think, is my house haunted? And I think it's just the wind, but sometimes it sounds like someone's walking upstairs. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of commentary saying, "Yeah, Frank, your house is haunted." The phone call is coming from upstairs. Yeah, that stupid lead got stuck in the that mechanical pencil. So yeah, managed to yank out that that lead. It's funny, when I was younger, I just always used the number two pencil, and I never care for mechanical pencil. I've always used just a regular pencil. And then I think once I became a professional, that I started using this Pentel mechanical pencil. Um, because I don't know. It's just, I guess I got tired of constantly sharpening my number two pencil. Uh, with a mechanical pencil, you can just click the button and the new lead would pop out. So, and then because of that, I became very, very comfortable drawing with the mechanical pencil. Now it's the only pencil I use. Actually, now I think about it, I don't think I have any number two pencils around my studio anymore. I mean, I still have the pencil sharpener, but I haven't used that in a while. I mean, only time I use it now is to sharpen my color pencils. So I'm adding the kind of the shading and texture on the helmet. Just reinforcing the line. Yeah, Magneto has this like really iconic kind of collar with the bolts in it. I'm actually kind of glad that they made Magneto a more of a complex character. Made him a like a gray character, not quite a villain, but not quite a hero. Those characters always tend to be more interesting. It's kind of shading in that the design element. And thus I am just kind of reinforcing, darkening the outline. And that should do it. There it is. Magneto of the X-Men. Hope you guys enjoyed this.